Super Mama, ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hello and welcome to Pushing Desi Culture, the podcast. My name is Sid Pandya and we are recording inside MediaWorks Studios in Windsor, Ontario. Today my guest is Dr. Padma Naidu. She is an internal medicine and obesity medicine specialist. She's an adjunct professor at the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry, and she's also a hospitalist at the Windsor Regional Hospital, Metropolitan Campus. Welcome to the show, Dr. Naidu.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for making the time in your busy schedule to come on to our show.
Absolutely.
So my first question, what is a hospitalist?
So, hospitalist is a term for a physician who takes care of sick people inside the hospital. So, you have your family physician who is typically taking care of patients in the outpatient setting. So, back in the day, family doctors also went to the hospital when their patients got sick and requiring hospitalization. But lately, because everybody's life is so busy, the family doctors don't necessarily go there. And so that's when there's a physician in the hospital who is taking care of all these hospitalized patients, and that person is the hospitalist on call.
I see. So it's a position, it's an important position, obviously, that you play in the bigger scheme of things in providing health care services.
Absolutely. So the role is that of being the captain of the ship. So sometimes patients come in with, let's say, lung problems or kidney problems, and so we admit the patients on our service, and then we will consult with a specialist or a surgeon, or or sometimes send them for procedures, biopsies and such, get the results, and then in the end, when we discharge the patient, send all these results to the family doctor, send the patient back there, and that complete that circle of care at that point.
So, and it's not something that you have achieved overnight. Eh? There's obviously a process to get
yes,
here.
Absolutely.
The process to get your qualifications in a foreign country, then to move to another country, and then have to go through the whole system again, sort of.
Absolutely, yeah. So at one point I was like, I'm qualified in 3 countries technically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Please share with us your story as an immigrant.
Absolutely. So I came from India in 2002. I immigrated here, and I'm a pathologist from India. So I finished my medical school and I did pathology residency in India. And then when I came here, I was applying both in pathology and internal medicine. And that is because pathology, while doing pathology, I realized that I loved the subject, but there was lack of patient contact, and I'm a very people person, so I realized that I should probably switch gears and look into internal medicine, which was also equally favorite subject of mine. So I was doing externship at Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto when I first arrived, and that was a great experience. And believe it or not, SARS had just struck at that time. Now,
yes.
since we are in COVID times, it
yes.
reminds me, because I used to fill the form every day before entering the hospital.
Yes.
So it was a very unique experience, and coming into a new country and everything. I got to work with Dr. Ranjan Chetty, who is actually a well-known pathologist and very smart man. And he was my mentor. And of course, while applying, I applied for both pathology and internal medicine, and I applied for both US and Canada at the same time. And my motto at that time was to save time. So I said, whoever calls me first, I'm going.
That's right.
So I got accepted at Wayne State University in Detroit, and for a residency in internal medicine. And so that brought us to Windsor from Toronto. And Rakesh actually came with me. He had his job in Toronto at that time, but he used to try and drive up every week, and kept that job for a while, and then he realized he couldn't do anymore, so he had to leave that job. But anyways, that brought us here. I did internal medicine in Detroit, and our plan originally was to move to the United States, because the only thing we didn't like about Windsor or Canada was the cold, and everything else we loved. So, but then a few years later, we actually realized that Windsor felt like home for us.
Yes.
And we felt very strongly connected to the place. And so I left my job. And so I actually, after residency, I worked at Detroit Medical Center for 4 years, 5 years actually. And I left my job there to start my practice here in Windsor. And I've been in Windsor since 2011.
Wow. And like they say, whatever happens, happens for a reason. And it works out really well.
Absolutely. And we have thoroughly enjoyed our journey so far. And I think I'm in the best place in terms of my family, in terms of the way we feel. And we feel very connected with Windsor. And I think that's very essential in making you feel rooted in any place.
Definitely. And, for those who don't know, you are the wife of Rakesh Naidu, the CEO at the Chamber of Commerce, Windsor Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce. And so, because you just name dropped him. So just for those who don't know, just putting it in reference.
Absolutely.
But no, it's for me in this story is the story of resilience. Is a big one, to like have to go through the process again. Personally, my father, he's an orthopedic surgeon, and he had a similar story back in 2009, having to move to Ontario, Toronto from India, and then going through the exams and then getting qualified to practice in Ontario, Manitoba, and Alberta. So it's one of those stories. That's why I like to hear from the other perspectives for people who are actually able to make it through the system, because a lot of people unfortunately are just not able to for whatever reasons.
Absolutely.
So I really commend that to be a well-respected female person of color medical doctor. And I understand there's more work that you do outside the hospital as well, outside your role as a doctor.
Absolutely. So yeah, summarizing, I'm very fortunate to be married to a wonderful man, Rakesh. And I always, when I'm super mad at him, I remind myself that this is the man who put me through 2 residencies, one in India and one here. No, jokes apart, I mean, he's the reason for my strength, I would say at times. And together we make a great team.
For sure.
And yeah, so that's very important in someone who is in medical field, because our education period is very long. So whoever is the spouse has to be kind of ready for that kind of a journey, right, along with the physician. Yes, absolutely. One of the things I've actually enjoyed is work outside work kind of a thing. I have been the past president of Essex County Medical Society for the year 2019. And in that role, yes, you're absolutely right. Women in leadership are very few. And although it didn't seem like that, because in fact, now the lineup of presidents who are after me there's a lot of women coming up.
Awesome.
But I think I was the 4th or the 5th woman president for an organization which has been in Windsor for about 104 years.
Wow.
So it is true that women in leadership position are few. But in medical field, we do see a lot of women in other different leadership positions too. And it is extra challenging because I do have 2 wonderful boys, and as a mother, there is that guilt element always there in the back of your mind. If as they say, if you come to work, you are like, I wish I could spend an hour more here. And when you get home, you're like, I wish I could have come home an hour earlier. So there you're always caught between those 2 feelings. And the other challenge of being a woman in leadership position is people accepting the idea that of having women as leaders. And so there are biases at so many different levels. And a lot of times people are not even aware of the bias that they carry within themselves. And this bias is not necessarily in men, but it's also in women, accepting women as leaders, right? And it's a very subtle bias. It's not like a very obvious or a big
implicit.
bias. It's implicit. And especially in medical field, like women physicians have been around for a very long time. But you're absolutely right saying women leaders in medicine is changing. Having said that, so the year I was the president of ECMS, that is last year, I'm currently serving on the board as a past president. Last year, the CPSO president, Dr. Nancy Whitmore, so a woman leader there. CPSO is the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario. And then we had Ontario Medical Association, which is the medical association of all the doctors in Ontario. The president is Dr. Nadia Alam, so again a woman physician. And the Canadian Medical Association, the president is Dr. Gigi Osler, again a woman president. So, and then the Essex County Medical Society, which I was the president of. And so 4 women in leadership in 1 year.
Awesome. So it's definitely changing.
It's definitely changing.
It's definitely changing. It's a conscious effort, I think, and that there's more work that could be done, but you can see the change.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah. Even within the hospital in different leadership levels, we do see a lot of women leadership rising. Like Dr. Andrea Steen is chief of staff at Hotel de Grace Hospital, and we have Dr. Sindhu Kanjikal, who is our chief of oncology, and Dr. Margaret Chevalier, she's a lead of the Hospitalist and Family Medicine program at Windsor Regional Hospital. So these are the few names that are coming to my mind right away, and excellent physicians and in leadership positions.
That's really good to hear, to know that, there's all this work that's being done to have the gender equality, to make sure there's proper representation in terms of the workforce reflects the population, and those are great signs, and that's definitely a sign of a healthy, vibrant workforce.
Absolutely. And as an immigrant, I feel that immigrants are unique in the sense that they bring the culture from the place they come from. And they also have unique challenges that they have faced throughout their life, So every immigrant will have some unique story. And of course, every person has their story. But as you correctly said, even I get fascinated, even if I see patients and if they have moved here 50 years back or 60 years back from Italy or Spain or Poland, I like to hear those stories because it's a sign of resilience, right? And at the same time, we have to understand that Canada has been very multicultural and has been this assimilation of cultures, this amalgamation that happens, and everybody brings with them a perspective, and put together we make the new country together, right? So there is a lot to learn from each other, and there is a lot of perspective that immigrants bring. And it's amazing to see that kind of like a reflection coming from every aspect of the society we live in to come together.
I love that outlook of life. I love having that outlook where there's something to learn from everybody that we meet. And I'm sure this plays a role in, inspiring you to do your work outside the hospital, such as with the Obesity Canada chapter.
Right. Oh, yeah. You brought us to a very important point. Yes, that's something I absolutely love doing. And, so as being a physician, so I trained as an internist, as an internal medicine specialist, so which is basically doctors for adults. So you have pediatrics for kids, so internal medicine doctors are doctors for adults. And after internal medicine, there are some specialties, subspecialties. So medical education goes on forever, So I chose to be a general internist. And then I worked in US before coming here. And then in Canada, in Windsor, I was a general internist for a while. And then in 2016, and throughout I was looking for a niche for myself as well. But 2016, I pursued the American Boards of Obesity Medicine. So that brought me to my subspecialty, which is obesity medicine. And the passion lies in the fact that I think us as humanity as a whole are just becoming bigger and bigger, and obesity has become a pandemic actually. And if you look at the burden on the society of obesity, it's huge, and unless we do things to prevent it or treat it, we will be actually, I'm quoting at this point the OAC, which is Obesity Action Coalition, and on their website they're saying that it's unfortunate to report that our generation could be the first generation who will have a shorter lifespan than their parents. Wow. Because of obesity. So that is what the future looks like unless we do something about it. And so that's my passion. I'm the current chair of the Windsor Chapter of Obesity Canada. So Obesity Canada is a not-for-profit organization all over Canada, and the job of this organization is to spread awareness of obesity and to advocate for patients who are living with obesity and spread the correct type of information, because there is a lot of myth in obesity.
Yeah, you don't want people starving themselves either.
No.
It's about healthy balance.
Yes, and also spreading the right information so that is backed by research. Because whenever people want to lose weight, the first thing they'll do is Google something, or they'll go to some friend who knows something, right? But then we are saying, no, just look at one place, and that's going to be Obesity Canada. It's a very beautiful website that they have. There's information for patients, there is information for healthcare providers, and tons of good stuff in there. So something to watch out for.
So there's resources there for people who are looking for more information.
Absolutely.
So you've talked about some of your inspirations, and you want to make sure that we change this curve of the obesity pandemic. And then I can hear some of your, inspiration for the work that you're doing. So from inspiration, let's talk about your aspirations, for the next generation that's coming through, for the South Asian youth that are growing up in this current climate with all kinds of different pressures, peer pressure, societal pressures. What is your message to them?
Absolutely. It's a very beautiful question. I think, last year, actually, year before last, 2018, and That year we did the health expo at the Hindu temple. Of course, they've been doing it annually. That was a year when I was actively involved. And that year we had a focus. So my talk was on obesity, and we had other specialists come from other fields, and we talked about it. Diabetes and obesity is very prevalent in South Asian descent people, people of that descent. And mind you, we don't have to have very high BMIs to carry the risk resulting from obesity or diabetes, because even at a lower BMI even at a lower BMI, we have a higher risk for heart disease and stroke and such. And so it's very important to understand that additional risk we are having, because we as a population are a higher risk population for heart disease. So that's an important message there. So sometimes people think, oh, I'm getting on the scale, but I'm not that big, but they could have abdominal obesity, which is an independent contributor to coronary artery disease risk and cardiovascular disease. Second challenge with our cultural background is our culture also comes with all the goodies, the food, and which is not very healthy all the time. I guess that's a challenge with pretty much all cultures, because you look at other major festivals too, there is a challenge with the way people eat. Primarily, our cultural background has more carbohydrate intake and more sugar and salt. So these are the things that have to be addressed. And so during this health expos, what we have done is try to educate people that it's a choice. It's a choice you're making. Just because the gulab jamun is there doesn't mean you have to eat it. Or
Are you sure?
So, or you could maybe do your, festival with a little bit less involvement of sugar, and maybe do more activity to do while you're also enjoying the food. I personally believe that food should be enjoyed. Don't get me wrong.
Balance.
It's about that balance and understanding that, hey, I'm enjoying this, but I have to control how much. There has to be a limit to what's going on. So, and my message to the youth is, first of all, like when I look at young people like you, I'm quite impressed, like so connected with your roots, and you're so comfortable with it, because I know that I have been here long enough to see that there are some people who are not very comfortable with their own roots, and unfortunately they will always be at war with their own self. So it's important to embrace your cultural existence as it is, and embrace it in totality with all that comes with it, and then try to take the good out of it and spread it to the world around you.
Thank you for the compliment, first of all. Second, before I get to the part about, embracing it, I want to just take a step back, and I want to applaud the fact that you've correctly identified the issue. It's almost, I understand the love, and I understand, the feeling, the emotion behind, it's almost, pressure and eating and kind of serving more than is needed. It's almost taken there's, like you said, there's cultural influences behind it. But I feel it can be changed. It's a great thing. We have, it's a blessing almost. Absolutely. To have that abundance. But I'm sure that we can share some of those blessings. We can temper it. It's about longevity. So I really applaud the work that you're doing. And going back to the message, I feel, it is important that we are making sure that we are represented in the mainstream media and the dialogue that's taking place in the mainstream media. Currently, you see there is different community leaders coming through in different positions. And most recently, Jeevan Gill winning the councillorship in the city of Windsor. We want to see more of that. We want to see our community, our faces being represented. And we want to also make sure that people know that we're here and we're contributing in positive ways and wonderful ways in the society where we live, work, play in.
Absolutely, and congratulations to Mr. Gill for winning that excellent, that was great. And honestly, I believe that all cultures should be represented. at the end of the day, whose responsibility it is it to be represented? It's all up to the individuals to represent themselves. So this step that you have taken is excellent. Like taking this a step further, the notch further, is there are these people who are have been in community leadership positions, and you want to talk to them, take that experience, and have everybody listen to it. I think this is great. This is cool.
Thank you so much. This is for me. I'm documenting history. This is where we are right now. This is where the culture stands as it is currently. And once you've taken the inventory of where we are, where we stand currently, and then, we can kind of find the path forward, and we can kind of make our path forward going in the future.
Absolutely, that's great. I mean, even when we read about the Sikhs who immigrated to Canada back then, and they were farmers, or the Chinese people who built the train tracks, and to me, history has always been fascinating, and I think every little piece of that should be preserved.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Naidu. That's it for this episode.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. So thank you so much for watching. That's it for this episode. We'll be back with another episode of Pushing Desi Culture, the podcast, very soon. Please make sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and all the good stuff on all your favorite social media platforms. My name is Sid Pandya. We are inside the MediaWorks studios in Windsor, Ontario. We'll be back soon. Take care. Stay safe.